Well, in the practice that I do, you may know that I say to myself when the mind is free to do so, not when I'm listening to one of my recordings, but when I'm just laying there practicing, I breathe into the count of, thank you, Heavenly Dad. No, sorry. Our Heavenly Dad, thank you for all your love. Which is 9 sort of words. Our Heavenly Dad, thank you for all your love. And then I hold the breath for the same saying. I don't say it out loud. I say it mentally. Thank you, Dad, for all your love. Now, you can think of all his love for you. More beneficial is to be thanking him for all his love to all life, to all being, all he's created. For in sum total, this is a blessing to you. It makes, for instance, the universe you're in at the minute, this opportunity to come to him. But it's further than that. All of his love is also, it's an ambiguity, isn't it? All the love that's due to him, all the love that's given to him, all the appreciation. You may think of it narrowly in terms of all your love for him. Why would you want to thank him for that? Because it transforms you. Your love of God utterly transforms you into life eternal. Hence the first principle, to love God with all your heart, soul, mind and strength. It's your key to paradise. Your way back into the garden of Eden, if you like. Paradise. Life eternal, as the Jesus story has it. It is to know God. This is life eternal, according to John 17. Why? Because you are preoccupied then with all that is good, because your God is the personification of what you understand to be, from your experience, goodness. And you're preoccupied with that. It is your thankfulness to God, your love of God, that is your devotion and marriage to all that is good. And certainly if you find that what you thought was good is not so good, then you will adjust it accordingly, according to your experience of the outcome. Or even if you reason and you think, oh, well, if so-and-so, then such and such must be the case. And follow through on such, live accordingly. Then you find the result, and you adjust your values accordingly, either to it, if the outcome is good, or against it, if the outcome is harmful, painful, suffering, loss. So, when we say thank you, Dad, for all your love, our Heavenly Dad, thank you for all your love. All your love can be, of course, all the love that's due to him and that he receives. Because that is transforming life, all of us, into the fullness of his goodness and glory, into the fullness of life eternal. You might call it bliss or happiness or fullness of life or whatever, all that is good and lovely, beneficial, beautiful, faithful and true, wonderfully good. The full blossoming of creation, the full loveliness source of eternal life. The activity of thanks transforms us. It ushers in overwhelming gratitude, in the realization of the goodness of God and the blessings of God to us. We are filled with hope, which gives joy and peace, of course. It fills us too with an expectation of continuing goodness, simply because of what we've seen. There's no reason to suppose it won't continue. We're filled with optimism. Love floods through us. We direct it to the source of this goodness, our Heavenly Dad. We are wedded to Him for eternity. We are the great friends of God, eternal friends, faithful and true. Because of our experience here, cleaning us up, if you like, anchoring us, knowing the difference between good and evil, that we be like Him, yes. I mean, a hard experience in some ways at times. It needn't be. We could discern good advice, good leading, practice it, and find the extent to which it is valid. It won't be perfect because we're in a world of good and evil. But it will be in the right direction, and you will learn. And that is what maturing is. The child grows, he knows not how. He grows, physically. And a few years later he's bigger and stronger and wiser and fuller, and he puts aside childish things as he becomes more and more mature. And that's what we're doing, spiritually speaking. And you are a spirit, remember. A spirit inhabiting a body. A dream body for a while, that you might grow in loveliness into the arms of God. And all of us that love you, all the incredibly vast heavenly host, all with a good intent, the sort of good intent that God has, all wonderful like Him, all loving Him and each other, and indeed all that He's made. And it seems there is nothing made that He didn't make, and even if He didn't make it, still He would love it. But He did, He made all. And continues to make all with us forever. Change from glory into glory. Love you, Dad. Just to think of your company is overwhelmingly wonderful into life eternal. And that's what we find out here. I might do it through my practice, a few hours a day perhaps, as time allows and so forth. You may find that you sleep less because you don't need it. You're in the practice for hours. See how you go. Don't push yourself too hard. Make it a pleasure and a joy. You will develop, you will grow much faster if you enjoy your childhood. Delight in it. Thank God for all that He allows to you. If you can't do that to begin with, thank God just for all that's lovely and good as you see it. Gradually your eyes will open, in fact quite quickly, and you'll realize that many of the things you thought were very difficult have been a great blessing so your scope of what you're thankful for will ever increase, as will your maturity of spirit, your devotion to all that is good and lovely, the personification of such, which is how you see God. How could you love any other God but the one that personifies all that you understand to be good? Wonderful. Bless you. And your trust and your faith just grows. You know not how. Bless you. Thank you, Dad. And perhaps it's helpful to point out that, the practice is triangular breathing. You breathe in, you hold, you breathe out, and you go on to the next breath. And you'll find with those 9 words said 3 times to each breath, you're covering about 30, 31, 33 seconds, depending. You can find it gets much slower and you're covering approaching 40 seconds perhaps. It doesn't matter. You don't have to do some incredibly long breath. 2 breaths a minute is quite staggeringly slow. You could presumably go so slow that there's no oxygen in the air in your lungs that's there to be taken out. So, we're not going for extremes. We're not on an exhaustion thing. The practice has to be something that you find, in the end, just automatic. But you can rest your mind in and upon. And you find the benefit just flows naturally. It's not a no pain, no gain bodybuilding exercise or something. Do you see? We're not sacrificing. We're doing something that in itself is a pleasure. Hence you're very willing to do it. You're drawn to doing it. It fills all the gaps, and you make the gaps bigger to fill for it with it. Gradually. Comfortably. Childhood is meant to be a joy, play, fun. Did you have a nice day, love? Yes, Mum. It's the ideal answer. It's the hope. It's what she wants to hear. Because she knows then that your happiness will be the environment in which you develop best, most fully, full of joy and peace, knowing the love of in that case, your mum, your dad, in this case, your heavenly dad. So that's the practice. It said, you could do N hours a day and in N years this would achieve something or other. No. We are a child of God. I don't have to grow up. God simply ensures that I do grow day and night. It's his loving gift of care to us. What we should do for full happiness and best being active and supportive in what he's doing is to be aware of him. And the awareness of all the goodness that he gives us will fill you with thanks and gratitude. And your love will just escalate. You'll become more and more wonderful person. You don't have to do this triangular breathing practice that I do, but it's a good way. It's not to be worshipped. It's not to be the be-all and end-all, but it's very much in the right direction. It's a great blessing. And if you find it to be a great blessing, you'll do it more. So So encourage your practice to be a joy, not some tedious something you have to get through. That would be such a shame. You'd be better doing less in that case. What you need to know is that God is your heavenly dad, loves and cares for you. What you would benefit greatly by is being aware of whatsoever is good and lovely, and practice thanking him for it. The practice is just a way of doing it. That's all. But having said that, it can be a great blessing, great help. But it's not what you are. It's not what you have to do. It's God that brings you to glory and the fullness of life. Knowing him is eternal life. So we're drawn to that which helps us best to know him. That might be simply sitting and reviewing his loving kindness to you at the moment, or during this day, or yesterday, or looking through your diary account of, if you do it, of all the kindness he's been to you this day, last week, or yesterday, or a month ago, or a year ago. He will prompt you in what you should be doing and the benefits that you can benefit from. It's time spent with him, you see. It's thankfulness, it's awareness of the one we love that fills us with joy and love, peace and hope. Everything spiritual follows from gratitude, which follows from being aware of all his loving kindness to you and to all life. It's that which transforms you. The practice will help greatly and bring you great happiness and joy. Bless you. Thank you, Dad. Now I got halfway through this and I'm reminded I should tell you I'm listening to this whilst doing the practice. Of course, I'm not saying the words because they would collide with the words I'm listening to in the recording. So I've reduced it to numbers. And I'm breathing into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, at a constant steady rate. Holding to 9, breathing out to 9, and listening to the recording. And okay, my mind is counting the figures in the background. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathing in, hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. And breathing out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that's taking, as I say, about half a minute. And I repeat and repeat and repeat. And I'm just listening. My mind is occupied with what I'm listening to on the recording, in this case, this one. The breathing is, well, obviously it's supplying the body with plenty of oxygen. And the oxygen is being used as the right environment to build the body and develop the mind and the brain. And apparently, the great majority of our oxygen that we take in, normally, not when we're running uphill or something, but normally, is being used by the brain. And if it's the neurons that are using it in some way to be developed, then it's probably so for the neurons in the rest of the body too. It seems that, the heart is in large part a mass of neurons as well. So is the spine, various centers in the spine from the Hindu understanding are places of consciousness, thought. That's an amazing thing we call consciousness that we have. And similarly, is it the spleen and probably the rest of the body to some degree. We are wonderfully and fearfully made, the Christian Bible used to tell us. And so we are. Bewilderingly fantastic, this gift that God has given each of us. You may not see it as good as the one presented in the media, and you wish you looked like this and had these skills and abilities and so on, but in fact, what you are compared to nothing is breathtakingly, magnificently wonderful. And you do well to thank God for it. Your gratitude and joy will be helped yet again by doing so. Where was I? Yes, just to remind you that you can be doing the practice like I am as I think through. I found too, very clear yesterday it came to me that the UV light from the sun is in large measure what's a blessing in sunbathing. Not to excess, of course, we know that, don't we? 20 minutes, half an hour is just lovely, as regular as the sun allows, and a bit more in winter perhaps because it's much weaker. Avoid the midday sun, especially in summer when it's too strong. In a place like New Zealand, it burns. You don't want that to happen. You're not out to destroy the body, you're out to bless it and feed it. And I don't suppose it's just the blue ultraviolet, or whatever it is. Not just the UV, it's some of the other rays beneficial too. Some are not so beneficial, and you don't want too much of that, so be reasonable in your sunbathing. But where I was that I was sitting in the armchair and looking out at the sky. Not at the sun, of course, directly, because that would be harmful. To look at the sun is far too bright, It just damages the eyes. You can sun your eyes by closing them and facing the sun, and 10 minutes a day of that is incredibly beneficial to the sight as well, but to the body generally, and your immune system is greatly helped by, if you wear glasses, spectacles, take them off because they may shield you from the UV too much. You need some exposure to the daylight. Bit of your walk might be without glasses on, for instance. In other words, nature as it is designed to benefit you. We may have tampered with nature a bit, so be careful, don't get too much sunlight in a place like New Zealand where the ozone layer might be damaged and not protecting us as much as it should. So you'd be more strict as to not getting an excessive amount. But yes, I realised just sitting there in the armchair that looking at the sky, meditating on just the blue and the clouds while I was doing the practice was better than having the eyes shut. So I'm reclining there comfortably in the armchair, the body fairly straight. My armchair is what's called a lazy boy here in New Zealand. You can slope it back a bit like a car seat, and I don't mean lay flat completely, but you could do if you wanted to. But I just lay back comfortably in the armchair and look at the sky. Let the UV light fall on the eyes In effect, you're just looking at the clouds and the sun. And not the sun, the clouds and the blue sky. And you're getting plenty of beneficial light to the eyes and into the body. But do sunbathe regularly when you can, when the weather allows. And as I say, something like 20 minutes, more or less, each day would be helpful. You'll know what's too much and what's too little with practice. Bless you. But do you see how you can be doing the practice while listening to recordings, while looking at the sky, while laying in bed in the dark? You can practice. What are we essentially practicing? Consciousness of God. The only way you can appreciate God is to be conscious of Him. You may think that some physical bodily shape, an angel, is the most helpful, but it still only achieves the same thing, which is that you're thinking of Him. Thinking is starting to know. This is life eternal, to know God. The practice helps you to enter into life eternal. Quite simply that. It's not to be worshipped. It's just to be practiced. We love God, our Dad. We recline in His arms, in His embrace, because His presence, the awareness of His presence, is everything to us. John 17 has it that He dwells in us. You can't get nearer than that, can you? You are embracing the fullness and the loveliness of God, and He you. Wow. What other blessing could you possibly want? The very personification of all that you understand to be good and lovely. You are one with. It's who you are. Thank you, Dad. And so I've increased this recording from 17 to 27. I've added 10 minutes. Just like that, because something occurred to me halfway through reading what I had. Don't miss these opportunities. It greatly blesses you. And it becomes a blessing to others. Potentially. Those that have ears to hear. Those that want to know. How lovely. Do you realize it makes you part of God's wonderful creating? What a joy to be helping Mum or Dad in the house or the garden, or shopping, or just to be with them. That's what we're doing in eternity with our Heavenly Dad.